Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I am Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. We are pumped up to have you guys, and we got another great discussion for you all, and I hope you guys are ready to join in on it. And we have some special guests with us. We have Richard Osborne Jr. How you doing, my friend?
Good, sir. How are you guys?
Doing great. And promoter of the Ozark Mountain Nationals, right? Did I say it right?
Yeah, we gotta fit it all in there.
Ozark
Mountain Nationals.
There we go.
We got it.
And my friend, man, you had several tournaments, but Memphis Open, Arkansas.
Yes.
Joey Perry, how you doing, man?
I'm awesome. How are you guys?
Doing great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We are going to have an awesome discussion, kind of talking about what we talked about the past 2 weeks, and then also going into judging, promoting, where our sport is, and just, man, hope you guys join in, engage with us. Let us know that you guys are here and what you want us to talk about as well. Alex, as we go, remember, we are sponsored by the Virtual Fight Tour, and, man, they have their next show coming up in May. I'm excited about it. I'm also excited about the summer show that they're going to do with Bailey and Tyreek as the coaches, and
that's going to be something.
And featuring the young kids. You know, it's going to be great to see the next generation coming up. We all enjoyed and watched the Jotty versus Richard Plowden one, and I think everyone had a blast watching that. Right, and so this is going to be that next level of it. So.
I wonder if this one will be that big. You know, if it's just going to be kids, like, I don't know if it could be that big. You know? That one was big.
You mean like how many
people on each team?
On each team? You could. I mean, you could do boys and girls of every age group, you know? There's ways to do it.
I say something, and then Jeff realizes, never mind, Alex, you don't know what you're talking about.
he busts you out, right? He's like, no, actually, it's the opposite of what you just said.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying.
We have a little saying on the show, Joey. I'm not exactly fond of it, but it catches, and it's called "Shut Up, Alex."
I see.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. Sometimes. Yeah, so it's all right. It's good.
It works sometimes. That happens.
I mean, you gotta have it. You know.
But I am stoked about the Virtual Fight Tour. Every single one of them has been great. It's just easy to just watch and then go right into the next fight. And what I love about it is because when you're watching, like a fight from a tournament, like if you're just watching a clip, like to really catch it, you can't look away. You have to be on it the whole time.
Yeah.
Which is fine because for us, that's all we want to do anyway, right?
Right.
But if you're watching something for a few hours, you don't want to be locked in like this all the time. So sometimes you can look away, and you can't if you choose to. You know, you can grab something, you come back. Oh, what's the score? Oh man, how do you come back? And now there's going to be a conversation. You can talk about that because there's 3 rounds for every matchup. I just feel like that could end up being the future of point fighting. But that's just me. Who knows? I don't know. That's really what we're here to talk about, right, guys?
Yeah. That's right.
Oh man, yeah. So let's get into the last 2 weeks. So we had, 2 weeks ago we had Jackson and Sammy on, and we just talked about the current state of forms and weapons. It really is based on more creative style and CMX, pretty much, right? And then last week we had Mike Welch, Lauren Carney, and Marcel Jones. And we were just kind of going off of that, but taking it to just a whole nother level, really.
A couple of great shows in a row on that, man. It was an awesome people,
absolutely
awesome minds.
I was riding
fun.
those coattails. I tell you what. And I said it.
So was I listening.
Hey, out of the 5 of us, I'm the 6th best competitor here. And I'm not even lying. It's like that. But
so
we're going into this one. It's a little bit of the same in the sense that 3 of the 4 of us.
Oh, here we go again. Know what it's like to be promoters. Yep.
Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and on really kind of how it's been going.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, for Daryl, good luck. Hope you do well this weekend, man. He's got a fight coming up this weekend. So thanks for watching, Daryl.
All right, though.
All right. So, guys, let's go. I want to hear what you guys, maybe what was one of your big takeaways from the last two shows.
Yeah.
And maybe from your perspective, what you thought of that, like this was cool to hear this. And then this was what I think, as a judge or promoter, whatever, school owner, who wants to go first?
Richard, you want to take it
Sure.
first?
Hey, I'll go. I'll jump in real quick. So here's the biggest takeaway, and I don't want to say it's a problem with the sport, but the feedback we get from competitors, like where does that information go, and who's asking for it? Like we heard all that information the last 2 weeks on the show, right? But does that ever make it to the heads of states and promoters that are running tournaments, that are making those decisions and making those rules? Is that feedback? Are we even asking for the feedback? Because obviously the feedback's there. I mean, they're willing to give that feedback and they're willing to comment and talk about it. But how often I've been involved with the sports since '85. So I don't know of promoters and heads of state that ask for that information. And so that's probably the shocking thing to me, is that we don't get enough feedback from our competitors. Some parents give it willingly. They like to give feedback. But do we actually ask the top competitors, hey, what can we do? Because sometimes I think we get into a rut, and maybe not rut's the wrong word, but we get into motion of like, well, they're showing up, so they must be okay with it. It's all right because they keep coming. So whatever we're doing is okay. So because they're going to show up, And so that was probably the biggest thing to me, is there was a lot of information being thrown around, and
Good point.
how could we integrate that into the tournaments and events, and how can we make the competitors feel like we're actually listening to them, like they'd actually see the results of what they say. I mean, you're talking about the top of the top with both those weeks, and can we implement that to actually make it, not just talk about it, but actually do it? So that was my biggest takeaway.
Awesome. Love it. What do you think, Joey?
On that point, just to kind of stack on that particular point in line, what it takes. I mean, just what it takes is the people that are listening, and the people that do have authority, and the people that are making the rules or do have an opportunity to change the sport from inside, actually listening, actually understanding what the problem is that's coming from not just today's competitors, but people like us that were last generation or the one before that, however you want to look at it. And now we're the ones either judging it or talking about it or teaching it or all the above, right? And we're all saying, hey, this needs to be adjusted. This is not quite the state of where it is physically. So it's time for people to listen. It's time for the people that can make the change to attempt to do that. So I think that's really my takeaway, is that people are like, okay, it is really time. What can we do? And the only way it's going to happen is enough of this discussion, but also having the right people to listen, and then having somebody that actually has a plan and go, okay, here's actually how it is. Here's the listing, or here's how it's judged, or here's how it could be broken down. And then you can kind of go from there. But the promoters have an entire, since this is a little bit about promoters too, on this subject, because I think about it like I was more of a creative forms competitor myself. That was where my passion was. And then I fought and just liked it and whatever, but I love it all. Like I love all of it. I really do. I love it all, but I really did come from that little stance as a competitor. So I always kind of see things from a very creative, open mind point when I talk about sport karate. So like, how can you change like creative forms and going into that? It takes people like us to look at it that way and go, okay, it was cool then, it's cool now, but it's not quite, all the things that have already been talked about, without me rehashing everything, and go, okay, how can we truly implement this? So now as a promoter that also thinks like that, I look at it and go, okay, well, what are the problems? The problems are, you have to train your officials to know what they're looking at. You have to train officials across the board to understand, whatever differences are there. for some groups, it's easier than others because maybe we have a system of doing that. Maybe we're already starting that. Maybe we're polishing what's there and already improving that. That's great. But if we need to change something, when something has to change, you have to have other groups doing the same thing. Because if one group is doing it, that's great, but it doesn't change the sport until it affects, so everybody else starts following. So it's going to take people to implement the changes that are created and have the guts to do it. Just like Marcel having the guts to go and compete, just creative, no tricks in the grands, that story, which is inspiring. Well, and I remember it. I was there
going to do that. I'm like,
that.
Dude, you're nuts. You don't even have the guts. There's no way.
Bro, it was awesome. Like, he's just phenomenal. And that was a cool moment. And him get to do it without music. He didn't need music because his freaking uniform makes the music, right?
Exactly.
So, it's beautiful. You know what I mean? So, like, coming from that era too, but then looking at it from the other parts, like a lot of promoters have no idea because that's not their background. So they don't even really understand what the changes are that need to be made.
Correct.
You can't really say as a blanket statement that none of the judges know what they're looking at. That gets thrown around. Yep. I don't think that's fair anymore. I think now judges are they're used to creative and extreme way better now than they were when we were kids coming up, right? Yeah. And they look at it. I mean, there's still a little bit of sense of awe with some of them. You see it, I see it. Sure. And then we have these discussions, like when we do officials training, I'm not going off on that track, but you have to talk about it. You have to train your people. You have to train officials. You have to educate. We have to be educated. You know what I mean? So people have to be educated. So a lot of promoters probably look at it as like, man, it's so much work. These people come from different stuff. It's going to be so hard to do, but it is hard to do. It's a job, but that's where the beauty of it is. Like, somebody's got to do the work and get it implemented, and somebody has to have the guts to do it.
Yeah. Awesome. So a couple of things that just from people that we've had on over the past 2 years with interviews, we've had several people say, like Matt Emming, say that he's sent to the promoters changes that he thought could be made for creative forms, changes that would help, and never got a response, And so that's where I think that negative.
It blows my mind.
It does. Yeah.
Blows my mind.
It's crazy.
Exactly. It's that negative thing that promoters get, and then us, when we're trying to come up from the ground up and build it up, it makes it a little tough, So I know for us on here, at first, I haven't seen any comments lately, but for a while, Mike Sawyer was watching our show almost every week, and he was making comments, messaging us, and was on the show one week, and
he got tied up, and then
he got tied up. Then we haven't really heard back from him. So there are some that are listening and wanting, to hear more. And he comments probably more than most promoters on the forums and things, and gives a good answer on why things are. So I respect for that. I wish. Yep. I don't think we all need to be tied up on social media. I don't think that, because that can make it where you go crazy and you're trying to please everybody. But you do need to listen, right? You do need to listen. When I was, doing my thing with NBL and voice, he was always telling me, all right, you're trying to please everybody. You can't please everybody, but keep doing what you're doing by looking at, where the main issues are at, And I think so that's maybe where we need to look at, like, what are the main issues right now with sport karate? It doesn't have to be forms. It doesn't have to be, it could be anything, sparring, whatever. What do you guys think? What are the main issues for us to currently, right where we're at? Let's talk about like COVID, you know what I mean? All that, exactly where we're at. Not where we were 2 years ago, but really where we're at now. What are our issues that we can do to make our events grow?
What do you think, Rich?
Why did you do that?
Why you always made me go first?
Wanted to go first.
I know.
You knew you wanted to go first.
Do it.
Yeah, you. Wow, yeah, I went first last time, man. It's all you.
I'm gonna lob it out here for you.
Let's do it.
No, I'm always respectful. I'm always respectful, so I want to make sure, I thought we were rotating.
Over here, like, give it to me.
Thought we were no.
The rotation's on you. Let's go.
No,
I'll
listen,
answer after you. You got it.
I don't have anything juicy. I will tell you though, like having I feel like I've got not just me, but I feel like our group, we've got a little bit of a unique position on that question right now, because since last summer, starting with Ozark Mountain Nationals, we were the first group and have been involved with many of the first live action sport karate events that happened since COVID closed down, right?
Exactly.
So I've been at every one of those since then, personally. And of course, now there's been some other open up, thankfully. But between then and now, and then looking at what's happened the last couple months, we've seen attendance way up in person the last few months. Each of our events have broken the records of all time of those events in the last 3 months. Like, that's mind blowing, right? Because everybody's like, do we go out? Do we not? The attitudes have been good in person. People have been respectful. Some events do better than others on whatever the mandates are or have been, you know. We have certain restrictions with our groups, and those get, followed, and that's been great. And that's really what's led to that and success. But as far as people coming out and whether the problems and what's going on right now, the attendance is not a problem because people are ready to get out. Like the evidence is there, right? People are ready to get out. People are ready to go. People's energy is good. People want to be respectful when they come out there of everybody's stuff. So we haven't ran into any issues with that, saying that's a problem or people are going to do this or that. Like, it's really been positive, and everybody's been very thankful, and it's all been good thus far with what's been done from our point of view. The big issue is now we need school owners and officials. We need people to get back out and jump back in there and help, keep the sport going and get it back going and move forward, and I don't know if maybe a lot of like the people that volunteer official regionally and locally, like we've even had, a little low numbers, but a lot of them definitely haven't been getting out into society as much as the younger generation, right? In different states and areas closed down, some are more open. So I think the number one problem right now that I could see, even through some of the success that our events have had, is still we need for that other generation. We need for people that volunteer and officiate, school owners, to really be willing to get back out and go forward. I know that sounds social, but really that's just the thing, as far as running events, now I'm not really saying like what's something we can improve in sport karate in general, but as far as the state of what's going on, that's kind of a statement.
No, I definitely can see that. And I know even for me, it's like, I'm looking at tournaments and I'm doing this or that, but then I'm also like, after you've had a year of not going out to tournaments, and when you were going all the time, it's hard to get back out. It really is.
It is.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, it just for me, it's like, man, I'm ready to go. But then it's like, okay, well, I got this going on. I got this going on. So I totally get it. How it can be. You're in a routine, and then you get out of it, and you get in a new routine, and you start liking that routine. You got, it's just comfort zones, right?
And I think that's happening with the athletes. And I guess that was the one other little sidebar I was going to touch on with that point is I've even had it with some of my, my competitors at my own studio. We're open and we're training and competing. And, two of my top sport karate athletes that I train that are active and, have been active champions the last few years. One's a little injured, but hasn't been back out really heavy during all this, and the younger one of the two, has only been to one event, and they're coming out of my studio, and I'm all like, we're helping lead the charge, right? Exactly. So I think everybody's in such a different place, but that the sport, that's an issue right now is convincing everybody to really get back out in that manner. I think people have to make the best choice for themselves, obviously, but it's an issue. If you want a little juice, I would say one of the other issues for sport karate is people need to collaborate more and really truly be able to bring their organizations or their leagues or their groups together, moving forward, so that the sport can benefit from that.
Pretty
that's
much.
kind of a big statement, but that's a big issue.
It's
right?
Yeah. That would help a lot.
Yeah. So I mean, basically, what we're talking like if you're talking like from the world sanctioning body, you're talking about like a WACO and a WKC or a WKU, but then you're also talking about like the national sanctioning bodies, like a NASCA or what MBL was, or ProMac or USA Sport Karate League. I mean, those are really the three biggest ones right now. Is USA Sport Karate League, ProMac, and NASCA. That's kind of where it.
Then you have kind of the world leagues that are doing, like I know WKC is going to have their nationals this year. So WKU has theirs in June. So
now are those in person, live, everything happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe the WKU is about to have one.
Yeah,
right?
June 5th is when theirs is. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're about to go back. WKC is promoting one going back, but their last one was virtual. So they're all kind of starting, which is great. I mean, the sport just needs to get back, and there's nothing wrong with having people get it twisted. So, everybody just needs to get together. Well, it's okay to have different groups, but being able to collaborate and mesh what needs to be meshed, yet work together. That needs to be figured out a lot more, and leadership is a big deal.
Because overall, we're sport karate. So it doesn't matter what the league is. Overall, people outside come in, well, that's that sport karate stuff. I've been there before where I've been at tournaments in Oregon, and there's a huge following for the wushu circuit out there, right? And you have people who are like been to the world championships in Beijing and everything out there, and their thing is sport karate judges, sport karate. They don't say NBL, NASCA, or they say sport karate. So they say all of it. So no matter what, we all need to get together. It doesn't we're not really competing against each other. Like we're actually helping, because if my sport karate event sucks, it's eventually going to get down to someone else. Like, that's that sport karate thing. I don't know. You know what I mean?
That's exactly right. You want everybody to do well. And people in this, some promoters, some people miss that. Just because your tournament has 500 people doesn't mean I should be jealous of you, or I need to talk smack on you or whatever. Like, we should lift each other. I know it sounds corny, but literally everybody should lift each other up and just understand there's enough players for everybody. And the more of the negativity or more of that happens, like Jeff, your point, the less people want to come and play because they just don't want to be a part of it. You know what I mean? So there's enough room for everybody, and the best of the best will continue to rise, and not everybody's cut out to be a promoter.
No. Hey, Richard, we got to get.
Speaking of that, there's a good question in the comments here. I think we should.
Yeah, I know we got several that we need to hit. Yes, here we go. Here's
this is a good one. So Diane, I like your style here. She says, "Why aren't divisions combined when there are only 1 to 2 competitors?"
Richard, do you want to answer that? Yeah, go ahead. And then it would be more of a competition rather than handing out first place when you're the only competitor.
She ain't lying.
I think it goes more to if you are in a points chase. If we were independent tournaments, right, it would be an easier question to solve. The problem is if we're running points or we're in a points chase, we will have a problem. We'll fix it the day of with the tournament, but we'll have a problem later on down the road.
Yep.
Like those situations, it's not that we don't want to do that. We absolutely do want to. Everybody wants competition. We all do. As a promoter, I take it personal. If a kid shows up to my tournament, drove 4 hours, spent $700 on hotel and entry fees, and they've got 2 people in their division, I take that personally. Yep. And so
what do we
I don't
then
want those types of divisions.
So then, Richard, you're right on, because you're right on. You're like, I can't just start combining divisions because now I might just screw somebody.
Exactly. Well, and it does look unprofessional. When you advertise something in your flyer or your website now, it can, and then you're just like, hey, guess what? We combined all of these. Wait a minute. I thought when I was getting this. So
what do you do then in that position?
The only thing you can do, I was going to say, as I say, for one, apologizing, realizing what's going on. The other thing is if we're at a points race and we have divisions listed and we can't combine it. Now, here's the other situation. Depending on what the situation is, let's say sparring. The sparring one is actually easier to fix. The forms types of situation, let's go back to sparring. So exhibition matches, I will do those all day long if I've got time.
Do a couple.
If you came and you're looking for if you're looking for a fight, I'll get you into a fight. I'll find one. Parking lot, the mall, the gas station, wherever. But if you came and you're looking for one, we'll get you one.
I like it.
So the fighting side is easy. The form side, the other way to explain that is if you win first place, you're only competitor. You still got one more division to go, and that's grands. So if you're looking for numbers, your division, let's say you came, you did what you did. It wasn't your fault that somebody else didn't show up, but you still have one more division, and that's a grand champion. So you're going to have 7-8 kids in that division. So you're not done yet. You won first place because you're the only one, but you still got another division to go, and you still got another division to win.
Yeah. And
so, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, Alex, you and I had an argument, a year ago about this, right? And that was my exact reason. I said there are so many people that come, especially when you go to like a 16 to 17, maybe like advanced. Yeah. There's not that many of those because they're black belts or whatever, right? It's small, but you give them a chance. They compete. They're the only ones in the division. Guess what? They still have something left. They have grands. And so you're giving them something. So a lot of people don't like all the grand championships for underbelts. I know you don't, Alex.
I don't.
But
I'm open to you explaining to me why it should be there. I'm open to that.
Well, we just did. I mean, that's one of the main reasons for forums right there is to give them something else, right? Because if not, why still
like you got something to say about it?
To be very honest with you, and I know, like, as a long time, like, I'm approaching my 25th year of being a tournament promoter. I started Arkansas Open 24 years ago. Like, forever, like, I know it's crazy. I don't like underbelt grands.
Right.
I don't. And that's no disrespect to the idea of it all, because the idea of it and why we do it is great. And it's great for the kids, and it's great for the ones that show up, and maybe they're only the competitors there, to the point that's being made. Because now, maybe they had a gimme, but for grands, they're going to compete against the best of the best in that group. So if they win that, they've done something that day, right? Or even if they can really see where they are. So it's not a perfect system. But I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of it in general, but from a bigger picture point of view, I certainly understand it. So there's my 2 cents.
Yeah. I don't think it should be as broken down as some people do. There are some tournaments that break down underbelt grands way too much. I think it should be a big deal if you win it. You know what I mean? Like, it should be like, it's okay to have, a beginner grand championship, intermediate and advanced. I know some people don't like going
13 and under.
Or 13 under, 14, 17, or 11 and under and 12 to 7, something like that. Those are still big amounts, but I've seen some that have done 7 and under, 10 to, like, so many to where there's more underbelt grand championships than there is black belt divisions. And
we do 3.
Yeah,
we do 3
let's go back to that, though. Yeah. Let's go back to, because remember, we were giggling about this. I think it was the last dimes. Oh my goodness, can you believe that? All right. And we were giggling about this. We're like, how many different grand championships there were. Yeah. And at one point we go, is your championship really all that grand?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
Because there's so many of these. So now we got to take a step back. This is one of the reasons why I said, like, I don't really like them, is because if there's already so many black belt grand championships, now we're having an under black belt grand championship.
Right.
When
they're not going away, though.
No, they're not. They're not. I don't think so.
No,
I think again, like I said, make them minimum, not, don't break them up so much. Make them something
more competitive.
Make them competitive, and make it to where you keep those people that maybe are going to leave if there's nothing left for them. Because I've seen that too.
I'll say we did, to that point, 3 age groups with 2 groupings, right? So we have a 9 and under, then we do a 10 to 13, then we do a 14 to 17. So there's a beginner for each of those 3. The beginners are beginners, so they have their own little beginner thing. And then intermediate and advanced are together. So they have to go against each other in those 3 age categories. So technically we only have 6 underbelt grands. It's because we have the 3 beginners and then we have the 3 for the intermediate advanced. the intermediate advanced, I will say, at least through Promac, the intermediate advanced color belt grands are some of the most competitive divisions of the entire day, every single tournament. Those kids are like, if you win that, like man, that's some heat.
Yeah.
Those kids do great.
Yeah.
I'll give them that.
So I always did 11 and under, beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then 12 to 17, beginner, intermediate, advanced. So that was the way we always did it. And same thing, 6 grands. And it was the same day. We kept it, it was competitive. It was a lot of people. You had at least 10 in there. And so
I have a question for the three of you because I'm the outsider in this one. So, all right, never been in your position on the other side of the table, really. Okay, but we've all been on both sides, right? So, is it promoting the tournament? Is it kind of like really promoting your school in the sense that the biggest thing you have for just your school is your black belt exam? That thing's got to be the big dang thing that you have. Everything's got to be a build up to this black belt exam. And you got your whatever, your belt exams, your underbelt exams, okay, those things. Man, it's still got to be the bomb, all right?
Right.
And then what you do in class to qualify you to get to that exam, to get you to that level. And then there's certain kind of checkpoints. So your black belt exam in this, analogy would be your elite, your top level black belt competition. But we all know we don't make the most money off of our black belt exam when we're running a school.
Right. That's what I was going to say. It depends on what you're looking at.
So is it, do you run it the same? Because really, if you think about that, without a real black belt exam, do you have anybody signing up for black belt? Really? I don't know. I'm asking. I don't know how it works on your end of the table. You know what I'm saying? So
Richard, what do you think on that?
So are you talking about within our school or how we recruit people to tournaments?
I was using the school
as an
example. An analogy.
Tournament.
And how we promote people to come to the tournament?
Yeah, or just having it run and just really how it's structured just in itself.
Yeah, he's just saying like for us, like your big grand thing for your school is your black belt exam. So shouldn't for your tournament be the big thing?
Is that or am I totally off base?
No, I still think the black belts are still the focus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I still think they're the focus. The underbelts have to feel just as important. So the focus needs to be on both. For me personally, if you're talking about promoting or because I think the focus used to be shifted where it was just black belts. That was it. That's where the excitement and the energy came from, was just the black belts. Right. The time that we live in, the way things are right now, it has to be equal. And I know that's a tough statement to say. I can't consider myself old school. I came up in the 80s, and I came around there, but I was so young then. And so I'm more on the fence of what's going on today. And both of them have to be equal. The underbelt side, the yellow belt, still has to be treated as the same way as the black belt.
All right. So what does that look like?
It looks like a schedule that treats everybody the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the treatment. It's the treatment. What do you reserve the same treatment as a 5-year-old yellow belt that just walked into a tournament, never seen a tournament before, walked in, doesn't have a clue what's going on? Would you spend an extra 5 minutes talking to the parent to make sure they know where the restrooms are?
Yep, exactly.
You're stepping above and beyond to try and treat them the same way. And if a black belt, let's go to a black belt that has more serious situations. Hey, I've got a judge over here. I don't think they're judging right. I've got a problem. Hey, Richard, your tournament, it always runs. We don't ever run on time. Will you give that same effort to all the ranks and everybody? And I think the effort right now has to be equal to everybody, whether it's a first timer or if it's a 60-year-old black belt that's done tournaments for 40 years. Will you give them the same time and energy equally? And you have to. You have to right now.
So
it goes down to how you what's important, right? Because you have to begin with the end in mind, which
Mm-hmm.
is kind of what you asked at the beginning, right? If
Right.
you think your black belt extravaganza is where you want to get this white belt that you sign up today, in 5 years, you want him to be at your black belt extravaganza, right? I mean, you want to track that. You want to do things in between there to get him to that point. So for the tournament itself, it's a little different because it's an event, whether it's a 1 day or a 2 day. But like what our goal would be for, like, let's say the goal for Arkansas Open or the goal for Ozark Mountain Nationals or the Grand Slam Open, the goal for that level of event is a little bit different than for the competitors at the Battle of Atlanta, right? Mm-hmm. Because, and I'll tell you what I mean. So this may help, this, like, from my perspective, to answer that, because I help with the Battle of Atlanta every year. Like, I'm on staff, like I help with scheduling and coordinating and all that with Battle of Atlanta. And then also the smallest ProMac event through all of them. Like, I help coordinate all the schedules and all that. So I see a little bit in between, like, right now, right? Mm-hmm. So for the smaller events through like mid-range events, we've shifted the focus to exactly what Richard was hitting home. Customer service for everybody, equal value. We're going to try to create schedule and play with schedules based on what we got to do so that everybody has an equally good time and nobody feels like they're better than, or nobody, the 5-year-old yellow belt doesn't feel, that parent who's already confused, who already doesn't know what's going on, who already doesn't know where to go.
Yep.
Because their instructor may or may not have told them anything. Maybe they're lucky to have gotten there, right? I mean, that happens everywhere. So, like, are we handing out ring schedules? Are we following up with what's getting put on our phone, and this and that? Or are we, so we put an importance on that for everybody as much as we can. So, like, really the end is that everybody had a good day. Not that everybody won.
Nope.
Because you're not going to make everybody happy, Jeff, like what you said earlier.
Yep.
So the end for us seems to be like, did we run an efficient event? Was it safe? Did we do what we said we were going to do? Did we follow our schedule of events in an orderly fashion? I mean, something's going to happen at every event. And we want to be able to treat everybody equally there, right? Now at the Battle of Atlanta, you have all of those same things. It's the same exact list of things, right? So it's the same goal in mind, but we have a night show, right?
Right.
We have a Friday night and a Saturday night show normally. So not only do we want to have all those things in line, just like every other event, from 100-person to that, but you also know that you've got to gear the event towards the finals and towards the Friday night fights and towards the Saturday nighttime show. And every major event that has a nighttime show would also have to plan that way, right? Yeah. So that would be the equal value for an event that size. But for everybody else, our goal is to get through the day with an efficient schedule, doing what we say we were going to do with customer service, number one, from the white belt to Jackson Rudolph, across the board.
Yep. So
Oh, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
I was going to say a couple of things on that. Was just one thing that I did the last 2 years I had my tournament. I had someone that was the customer service agent or a customer service person for that tournament, right? And one or two people. And that way because we have judges meetings in the beginning of the tournament. Why don't we have a competitors meeting and a parents meeting, right? So we had them run that. That way in the beginning, they got all the questions out of the way on Friday and Saturday, and they knew who the person was when they had an issue. If there was an arbitration, you can't just go just to the arbitrator. Sometimes the arbitrator has their job. So you have the customer service person who kind of just explains what's going on, why, because there's all kinds of stuff going on. So we kind of gave them someone to go to, so that way they felt important, which they are. They're the most important, right? But that way they really understood what was going on and someone to explain it to them in their terms. Because sometimes the arbitrator is chosen as the arbitrator because they know the rules. Sometimes they're good people, and how to explain it. Sometimes they're not, right? Sometimes they just know the rules better than anybody else and they can read it better than anyone else, right? So they may not be the best one to explain what's going on and so you give them someone. So that was something that I suggest tournaments to do. That was
they
something
should have an information table. Yes.
Right. Right, an information table, do a meeting in the beginning, but also someone to that has their back, that they feel like has their back, someone to go to. The other thing with the way we kind of tier things up, still with grands, everything else, is just, I'm not a big fan of underbelt grand like finals. I don't like that at all. I think you have to they have to have something to earn their way up there, right? If not, they've done everything by the time, So for me, yes. I do things that, okay, guess what? If you won the grand, you can present the award for the grand championship. That way they kind of feel like they have a way up there and part of it, and they earned it. They know they earned their way up there. Really
cool idea.
They earned their way up there, and then guess what? You got them there, them and their family there. So they're like pumped up. They see, all right, this is where I want to be. I want to get one of these one day. I want to do this one day. So you're really creating the high level competitor from the bottom all the way up. You know what I'm saying? So
that's a great idea.
Those are some things that I just think, instead of us trying to give everything to them the same way, you got to level it up just the same way. I don't think junior competitors should get money. I think there has to be, there has to be a reason to stay into the competition. For me,
hey, that's the question right now, money. Right?
It's a sensitive question.
How many times have you been asked that lately? Like that question's been brought up to me a lot lately. Like, hey, the juniors, can they get paid cash? I'm like, well, technically, yes.
They can now, but
nobody really does that. But
right, some do.
Yeah,
and some organizations use that against sport karate.
Yeah.
They use that cash thing against us. Just not to backtrack the last 20 minutes, but one of the things about our sport that has troubled me for years, and now we have a real opportunity to fix it with what we're doing, is sport karate does not feel inclusive. It feels exclusive.
Yes. People
from the outside, taekwondo, whatever, they don't feel like they can come to sport karate. We've already alluded to that.
Yep.
So depending on how its perception is everything. And our sport does not feel like it's open. It feels like it's its own style. Mm-hmm. And so everybody's scattered to the wind because of COVID. We're all, even though our tournaments are doing well, we haven't seen what a major tournament's going to come back. Are we even going to have a tournament that comes back to 1,000? I think Battle of Atlanta's got a really strong possibility of being a one super mega event that comes back.
Yep.
But that, again, goes back into – and going back to the underbelt grants too. Let me jump around a little bit. So the underbelt grants – and I think that depends on your base, too, as far as your base goes. Yep. So one year I had an underbelt grants, all juniors, and I had about 20 black belts fighting. And I asked them before, because I always do a little bit of undercover work before I get to my tournament, asking questions, what they want, like a checklist. You can't make everybody happy, but here's what you want. And every single adult told me, Richard, if you do a night show, I don't want to stay. Give us the money that we're asking for. And I'm saying it more blunt than what they were being nice about it. They're saying, look, we just want to win the cash and go home. Right. We don't really care about a nice show. And even for a regional tournament, that was one of the last night shows I ran. But I had 5. And I'm a regional tournament. I don't, even though we're Ozark Mountain Nationals, we're not 1,000 competitor tournament. We run about 400 competitors. But I had 500 plus people at an all junior night show that night.
Yeah.
I mean, it was packed.
That's awesome.
Packed.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what that's what they wanted. The adults wanted to go home. The juniors wanted to get up on stage.
Yep.
And it's not that we made everybody happy, but it works for that event. It depends on your market and what you got.
Exactly.
But, I really, again, it's going back to asking questions. What are you looking for in a tournament? What do you need? Me and Jeff, we tease about going back to the inclusive, exclusive. Right now is our chance to start pulling in people that we have not seen before.
Yep.
And everybody's always stayed away from sport karate tournaments. I've heard some of the stuff that I post on social media. Taekwondo people like, well, I'm a 4-time Taekwondo champion. I got last place at a regional tournament. Okay. So we never went back.
Right.
Okay. And so we lost them. We lost them for that region. I lost them for Battle of Atlanta. I lost them for Diamonds. Once like you said, it trickles up, right? If I lose somebody on my level, they're going to lose it on the next level. And I really do feel deep down in our heart, our sport pre-COVID, I think our sport could have been double the size if we were more inclusive instead of exclusive. If we really welcome people in and listen to the feedback, our sport could have been twice the size. Go ahead.
So how do you make someone who's doing like a Taekwondo style more? So how do you make like a TKD style and make them more inclusive?
Well, and then it goes back to the judging. Okay. So, and I know we haven't touched much on judging just yet, but I don't know if this is the point that we want to break into that.
Yeah.
So here's on judging. So here's the other challenge with judging. Let me back up just real quick. I know we've got parents that watch us, and let's do this. So let's talk about judging just real quick. How tough is it to be a judge? I have to be proficient, not great, and I don't want to be bad, but I have to be proficient in traditional weapons, traditional forms, point sparring, extreme weapons, creative forms, creative weapons, extreme weapons. So I have to be proficient in all these things.
Japanese, Kempo, Korean,
exactly.
Style. Yeah.
And nobody wants to hear you like, oh, I'm not good at that, so I can't judge that. Nobody wants to hear that. They just want yes.
Right. But then that goes back to the work on the backside, in which I've helped Joey train officials. And it's not so much more about knowing the rules, which is very important. I don't want to discredit people knowing the rule. A good judge that knows all the rules is great. But also a good judge is somebody that has seen Kempo, that has seen short form 3, short form 4, has seen a wushu. Have you watched any videos on these different styles in just 2 minutes of your day? If you're not getting paid to be a judge, but if I send you a video and we have the technology today, go, hey, look, I want you to watch 2 or 3 Kempo forms. I want you to watch 2 or 3 wushu forms, watch a little bit of point sparring in your own free time, and give me your feedback on that. And let's talk and let's discuss. And that's where we do it on the judging side, because if we had some, again, me and Jess had this conversation about the Taekwondo side, because I feel if more Taekwondo people came over to open tournaments, we would have a heck of a lot more fighters because those guys will fight and they will do forms. And the ITF guys, I was talking to Greg Ruth the other day. The ITF guys brought their top guys over to Battle Atlanta one year, and they all wound up in the top 4. I mean, you're talking about guys you pulled off the street from another organization, and they were in the top 4 fighting against the top fighters in our sport. And they did not say that they won, but they hung. And there's more of those guys out there. ATA,
Richard, they did not pull them off the street. They did not pull them off the street.
I'm saying
they were trained. They were trained ITF point fighters. They weren't just the bums down the road hanging out.
We found them at Chick-fil-A and threw uniforms on them.
Yeah, they weren't hanging out at Chick-fil-A like trying. Hey, y'all come compete at the battle. No.
I apologize. I'm from Missouri, so my statements are a little bit off. I mean, we just got indoor plumbing last week.
I love it.
So, I mean, we're sitting high on the hog. So,
Richard's my brother, so you have to forgive us.
That's just my feedback is that it goes back to the officiating, which we're doing. I mean, we're trying to get there. So we're not done yet. We're still working on that because I don't think that model's ever been presented before. Blitz is doing it. I know we're doing it with a Pro Mac, but that model's never been set before. How many people? It's a black belt meeting, right? Well, that's what we do for 40 years. We had a black belt meeting. Here's the rule: 1-point body kick, 2-point body kick. We're going to feed you water at noon. Good luck.
Go get a banana.
That's what we do.
I got a question on that though. So just stating the rules doesn't really help anybody figure out, what is what.
How
from
to
the
judge.
point fighting, from the point fighting side. We all know, we've all seen it with our eyes and even experienced it. You could have the exact same exchange from 2 people on 3 separate tournaments, get 3 separate results. So, and I used to use this analogy, but when I was coaching, but I don't know that everybody else would agree with this. I said, all right, if you blitz and you hit somebody, and as you're hitting them, they're falling back and hitting you with a defensive sidekick. What is that? What is that? You're blitzing, you're moving them, you're hitting them with your body punch. They step back, they're falling back, they hit you with a sidekick, but you're making contact same time. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, if it's definitely at the same time, it's a clash.
But does it get called like that? So here's what I tried to say. So the way I tried to present it, I tried to present it that way.
Yeah.
I try to present it that way intentionally because I used it like baseball, like an analogy. All right. If a runner gets to the base at the same time he gets tagged,
right, he's safe.
The tie goes to the runner. Well,
Right.
in that analogy, the blitz was the runner, right? Mm-hmm. So, but it depends on where you're at. Everybody, but like you just said, Jeff, you didn't agree with me. So we needed to figure out, well, what is that then? Because I will be upset because I will have understood something completely different. Like I know the rules, that didn't violate any rule, but it's what's my perception? What's the culture of it? So if we all understand that, so maybe Richard, what you were talking about, like, all right, here's this video. Maybe this should just be, listen, this is the outsider in this. Maybe this should just be a guy who's listen. We all don't know Kempo Forms guy. You're going to do a couple of tutorials because Alex Dingman is not going to be your Kempo Forms guy. That is spoiler alert. That's not me. All right. So, because if somebody gave me a couple of Kempo Forms to watch, I'm still not going to know what I'm looking at. All right. Because I've never done anything Kempo related before. So I'm going to be looking at it from a completely different lens. Am I crazy? Is that even feasible to do what I was just talking about?
No, not at all. And so
not at all. It's not feasible. I'm not crazy.
You're not crazy.
You're not. Well,
yeah. Well, I mean,
a little bit.
You know, with point sparring, we have to simplify it. We really got to simplify it. We cannot overcomplicate point sparring.
Yeah.
The guys move too fast right now. There is so much motion going on and trying to control. And you have to really hit on key things. And I'm going to let Joey talk a little bit too, because I know he wants to chime in too. So, but you have really got to simplify it. When we're training judges, even to this day, people I've been with, I try and keep it simple when I tell people to train judge. Don't call a sound. Don't call what you can't see. Don't call late. And last but not least, if it's too close to call, don't call. A no call is better than a bad call or a guess. And so we have to start from there. But then also what you're saying is then you got to break it down from there to going, okay, culture, right? What is a score? Is that defensive sidekick? Should we account the sidekick more than the punch? So then you got to break it down from there. So we're trying to get to that point. It's just we're trying to get the simple parts first. If we can get those 4 components I just said, we would fix sport, karate, point fighting in all the United States if we just did those last 4 things. Right. And then from there you got to break it down. But it's a culture thing. Like who said, was that JP? Did you said that? Was talking about culture? It's a culture thing. We're playing 40 years of catch up on culture.
Yep.
And we've got to play catch up right now. And we've got to catch up really, really, really fast. Like we don't have another 40 years to play catch up. So we've got to do it right now.
Nope.
That's the thing, brother. And Richard knows that. I mean, we talk about it all the time. And, you know, like overarching for sport karate, like from an official's point, it is the culture. It's the culture of your group, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the culture of who you're working with, just like you do at your studio. So like Alex, you talked about things relating to our studio and our staff and like what you prep for an event or whatever. So if you're not prepping your officials, if you're not prepping your volunteers for your event, how in the world are they going to be ready? You know, if you're not training them or giving them the information or getting them ready. And, you know, like when you have like a league or a group, you know, to me, it's even more important because what's your first line of customer service during the event other than your registration crew, right? Like your officials are doing customer service all day long, right? So you have to be constantly repeating those people, the culture and how you want people to be treated and how you want them to solve a problem and what the steps are for processes. Like Richard said, you're always trying to memorize the rules. People are always trying to remember what the rule is or get it right. Like I'm the director of officials, blah, 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 blah. And like, I will say, hang on, man, let me look that rule up because I want to make sure I get it right. You know what I mean? Like you said that, like, I want to make sure I've got it right. If there's any variance, if there's any option, I want to make sure I understand that and then make my decision, just like a judge would, just like anybody that understands how to truly serve people and truly make a decision where something's going to be making a difference, right? So the culture and the work ethic is, I mean, if you don't fix that, then nothing gets better. So like, without getting on my soapbox there for the officials, but when you're talking about the actual technique and what you're calling and all that, what are your angles? Because all that makes a difference. Like you said, you watch it 3 different events, right? And it could be called 3 different ways. Yeah. Well, why is that? Is it the quality of judges, or is it a mixture of the quality of judges, but is it more like what angle did those judges see that exchange in, right? Because I could stand right here and watch you guys fight and see something, but if I was 8 inches over here and looked at it, maybe it looked like a block, or maybe it looked like it passed you. So, I mean, it's truly a game of a few inches makes every difference on like a point fighting call, right? Like it's really this or that. So like Richard said, you've got to have the fundamentals. You've got to make sure that your officials are understanding, A, B, C, D of just how to be a great judge, how to improve, how to look at things, how to, not what to think, but how to think and how to move and how to judge. And there's a whole speech for that, right? But other than the movement and how that ties in, to really directly answer your one question about the exchange with the blitz and the sidekick, in the event of a tie, the offense would win the score generally, right? Because the offense would win the score in the event of a tie. But if there's a doubt, like Richard said, you could do a no call if you had any hesitation on that call whatsoever. But you could have that score with the defensive sidekick all day long if it was first and if it was solid.
Is that in the rules? Is that in the rules anywhere where it says that?
I've never seen
the offense actually should get. I mean, if we're going to go with that, then I'm okay with that, because we can relate that to another sport if we want to, which I don't know. I mean, sometimes that helps, but then it needs to be in the rule. You know what I mean? Like, that's where the issue is. It's not in the rule. We can say, all right, well, this is why I perceive it this way, but unless it's a rule, you can't really go that way. Like,
good point, Jeff.
So
here's another one. Here's another question about something similar. Let's say, in that same analogy, let's say that sidekick clearly lands first, like boom, in the armpit type, got him. But with the sidekick, the guy falls over.
Falls to the ground. Yeah.
Does he get it? I mean, we all saw him, like boom, hit him, solid, stopped him. Now he falls. What is it?
Guess depends on the rule, right?
That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm wondering.
Well, the rule. And how does he fall?
What is it in pro?
Does he fall because the momentum of? Well, that's what I'm saying. If does he fall because the other competitor was pushing on him or landed on him or helped?
Yeah, it all depends.
I mean, there's so many variables in there.
Yeah, that's the thing about point fighting and calling from an official's point is not only is it all about your angle, but it's also about what was the situation at that moment. Not just my angle, but like what was the energy, what was the follow-up, what was the follow. Like, there's so much at play. Like, every situation is not the same.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, I remember I was centering at a tournament, and I had kind of that situation where the guy was hitting the sidekick first, but was falling, but it was because the guy was literally pushing him after,
Right.
And I had that other school so mad at me, like, he's falling, you got to, and I'm like, yeah, but dude, your guy's like hitting him and like falling on top of him, so.
Right. So you have to be accountable as the ref to understand what you're looking at, right? And be able to differentiate, okay, was this on purpose or whatever? So that's just good officiating.
Right.
However,
the thing is, the center.
Maybe he would have done a different move.
Right.
Still been scoring.
Right. I'm just saying, you're the center. You have a lot of responsibility as the center.
That's true.
Ultimate responsibility.
You have ultimate responsibility of the safety of the ring, the rules going the right way, making sure they're infractions and stuff, and then you also have to judge a score. So I'm also almost in the way that we should do the center is kind of the same way it is in continuous sparring, to where they're only judging penalties and keeping it safe, and then you have 3 people around, doing the other part.
That sounds great.
Because
I like it.
Because you're in control. You have so many things to do. You have to check the time. You're having to, and the only problem I have is that most of the time you have the best view. So that's the only thing I don't like about it. But not always. But also you have so many things to do, and so I think making it easier on the judges. Okay, I think we need to do that.
I like that one, Jeff, because if you think about think about it in boxing,
that's what they're doing with Pro Point. So
referee's not he has nothing to do with the score in boxing. He's just doing exactly what you said, just maintaining what's happening with this carnage.
Yeah.
Managing the fight is what you're doing.
It's
go ahead.
Oh, it's a manpower issue, and I don't know if the sessions may be the way to go. But one thing we have learned with sessions, some of the tournaments have to run because of COVID, but this may be a blessing in disguise that we can run bigger tournaments with less rings. So the manpower. So when you got 1,000-person tournament, you got to run 25 rings. You got to have manpower to be able to run all those rings.
Yep.
So I think all these ideas are great, but we're at a shortage right now on officials to where we can't put 3 officials.
Exactly.
And so getting more proficient on how we run tournaments, because the judges may be there all day, because that's the thing about sessions. We're there all day, but the parents aren't. And so the sessions with the parents, a parent comes in at 10 o'clock, but they're gone by 12:30. They're there for 2.5 hours like a soccer game. They're gone. That's
the other thing. Run. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm just saying people are in and out. They don't want to be there all day.
Yeah. I wanted to go back in comments. This is what I was talking about with our sport. When we're not inclusive and exclusive, Diane said that numerous people told her that she had to have. See, this is what kills us.
Yep.
So whatever you learn in your school is crap, and you need to go learn something else, so you'll never be able to win.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the verbiage we tell people. That kills us.
Yep.
That kills us. I mean, we're killing ourselves. You know, there's other things that are wrong with the sport too. That there's a lot of backdoor stuff that goes on behind the scenes and stuff like that. But that kind of verbiage like that it destroys us and it kills us all. You know, especially all of us that put all this effort into it.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. And so now I got to tell somebody what they teach in their school is crap. Yeah. And who wants to come back and expose themselves to that?
And that's going back to kind of what Marcel was really pushing last week as well, is, stop trying to compare this to what's going on in your school. Like, your school is teaching you how to defend yourself. Your school is teaching you their style, So
I got another question. This one is totally changed the dynamic. Because I got to tell you, I'm getting stressed just talking about this from your guys' scenario. I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know about tournaments. Seems pretty.
No, bro, don't do that, because you put yourself on the hook for way too much. Don't do it.
Oh,
don't ever
do that. Here's the. Now
we love it.
I got a different question. As a promoter, two-part question. What is the craziest thing you've ever seen? Like, no way this thing happened. All right, no way this happened. Why do I have to do this? And because we've all had the complaints, what's the one that you will never forget? Like, okay, this Karen, let me tell you about it.
Oh,
Richard,
I want to hear it. I know you guys have got great ones. Joey's got.
I got a good one. I've got a million of them. I got a good one on the first one, but I don't know about the second one.
Go on the first one. Go on the first one then.
Well, I'll say a good one. It's some of the parents, like, everybody will understand, like, whatever. But all right, so this is really, I won't say names. I won't say anything. No. I'm just, in general, this is what happened. So I was embarrassed being there and being connected to it, and then had to do some things to try to help with it. The promoter, it was during the era when people first started using software to run events.
Sure.
And, we're proponents of that. That's great. It's a great evolution. And, you guys you understand, like, maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, like, there was a little bit of, like, it was 50-50 with how people were, like, comfortable with that, despite the fact they've been on Facebook for 10 years. I don't know, but it's another thing, I guess. Right. So anyway, still kind of new to people or whatever. Well, this is around that time period. Basically, the promoter, had everything set up, was ready, was supposed to be ready to go with this company to do, registrations coming in, whatever day of, had training set up for people, all this different stuff. We show up the day of the event, early with equipment to help them, set up their event. So we do that. And the first sign of like, oh my God, was that they had only his 7-year-old and an uncle there to help unload trailer and set things up, and not the team. Right. So that was the first sign of, this is odd. Right. And the excuse was odd. So that all happens. Well, then, we get ready for the next day. We arrive, and my role that day was to be just to help coordinate, run the schedule that was already there that we had helped put together for them, and then just kind of help with officials. Well, everything else was on the promoter that day. Well, come to find out, as we're in there getting ready, there's a line out the door for registration. Looks great, right? I'm like, wow, that's amazing. What a turnout this morning. Well, come to find out, the reason the line was out the door is because nobody knew how to even open the computer and log into the registration site. Nobody knew the codes. The promoter didn't know his login. He had no idea. Nobody was trained. This is 8:00 in the morning, day of the event, with about 75 people at the door. And it took 3.5 hours to get people registered, logged in, and then a 4th hour to get people ready to even compete at the first division that day. So that's a long way to say it was just a complete meltdown. I have no idea why people didn't leave that event, but that is a horror story of a promoter completely not being prepared, and made a lot of people upset. That was a horrible one.
I feel like you're saying the exact same story that I've been involved in several times, especially with at least one promoter. But was even better was that promoter, instead of taking responsibility, he goes up on there and says, all right, guys, I did my part. Any issues you got, go speak to Jeff. Like, yeah. So
it was similar. It was similar. They were like blaming their wife and people, and then we're up there, so we'll go talk to Joey. And I'm like, I didn't know. Like, okay,
Right.
What do you do, right?
Yeah,
it's terrible. I feel so sorry for all the people that came and spent their money that day. It makes our first thing, it makes everybody look bad when that happens.
Yeah, it does. It does. Yep.
Well, my stories all come. We're from the Midwest, so, and I say Midwest. I mean, Alex is a Midwest guy, but he hasn't seen Midwest.
Missouri Midwest.
I'm technically called the Midwest. Really, it's North.
Right.
Yeah. So we see some things down here that you normally wouldn't see. So just as a promoter, you see a lot of stuff in competition arena, just crazy stuff. So I got 2 of them that just from being a promoter and happened at my tournament. The one is the Atomics pants, right? They got the pockets, right? So you can put stuff in it. The American, so the American flag, okay?
With these bad boys.
Yeah, exactly. So people,
that's the traditional uniform there, right?
they're in a rush to compete. They forget to empty their pockets. We've got a gentleman that's a heavyweight throwing a spin heel kick on somebody, and a can of Skull flies out of his pants and hits our scorekeeper. Yeah. So, and I'm talking about like I'm not talking about just comes out just slowly. I mean slingshots out of the Atomic pants, hits the scorekeeper right in the chest. Full pack of Skull. Yeah, you can't make this up. So this is
a peace pipe
within the same couple of years. So, before I got to Pro Mac, so before I got to Pro Mac, here's my second story. So before I got to Pro Mac, I was a little bit more lenient as a promoter on rules. So I had a black belt that was fighting. And we said, look, you're getting ready to fight. You got to have a mouthpiece. And he's like, no, I don't need a mouthpiece. And I was like, no, man, you got to have a mouthpiece before you fight. You see where I'm going with this. And he goes, no, really, I don't need a mouthpiece. And so he takes his teeth out of his mouth before he fights, hands them to his wife, and goes, look, I don't need a mouthpiece, and goes in and fights. And as a promoter, and I'm saying, well, the rules are you have to have a mouthpiece. But he's like, I don't have any teeth. So you can't disqualify me because I don't have any teeth to knock out. And so as a promoter, I'm done going, okay, just go in and fight. We're good. Go fight. Just knock your gums out.
He is in Missouri.
Wow.
Good old Missouri. I love it.
For you guys listening to this, go back, just find the link on YouTube, watch this again. This is just pure comedy right here. This is fantastic.
Yeah. That's great.
No,
This should
man.
be a Netflix special right here.
Hey, just come to Missouri.
I was at a tournament in Utah.
Tiger King Karate Challenge.
And I had someone who really just tried to persuade me that he was allowed to wear jeans as his uniform because, it was Chuck Norris kicking jeans or whatever. I'm like, dude, you used to be a promoter. Don't try to play me. Like I'm not gonna play with.
He used to be a promoter.
He used to be a pro. He was just trying to get away with the rules. Okay, that was all it was, and he thought he could get by with it. And he just kept going on and on and on. I'm like, dude, like stop. Like just the amount of time that you're complaining, you could have gone and got some other pants. Like why try to just BS? And that what really bothers me a lot about.
I hate that when that happens.
Take advantage because maybe they think they know you or they used to be a competitor, a promoter. And, just go and do what you got to do. Because right now you're wasting my time and you've just wasted everyone else's, And
have you guys ever seen a plunger kata? You guys ever seen a plunger kata?
No.
I've seen an axe kata.
Okay, no. Okay, Alex, wood floor, right? Wood floor, industrial plunger. No, he used it. He forgot his bow. He grabbed a plunger out of the bathroom, went in, did his kata, got the plunger stuck on the floor so hard because he went and did his final move that he had to bow out and couldn't finish the form with the plunger.
No, man.
No lie.
No.
We can't top that.
Plunger on the floor.
No.
I mean,
No.
you
Can't top that.
What about the guy? What about the guy that?
Every other week just for the you can't believe this moment.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's it,
bro.
You can't believe this by Richard
just
Osborne Jr.
the stories that he can tell. That's it.
I got you. Oh, Alex, I got you some stories, brother. Well,
Hey, what about the guy at Battle of Atlanta that did the milk crate? Remember the milk crate?
Yeah.
I
The
saw
milk
that.
crate form was only topped by the senior citizen. Was it at Diamonds or? I mean, it might have been back at Battle, but it might have been Diamonds or Bluegrass back in the day that did the chairs and the full split and then broke out the little wooden knife and did it. And he was like 65 and he was in full center like Van Damme. That was like a Jeff Doss move. That was cool.
No.
That was pretty legit. It's legit.
So obviously, as promoters, you guys get complaints all the time.
Yeah.
So you got it. There's no way you don't get complaints, right?
You
We're
get complaints.
complaining about
You
complaints, right?
You do get complaints.
So what's the one where you're like, listen, this one was dang near an explosion. Someone might have almost punched me in the face. What was like the fight, that complaint that?
Well, I know mine, but
never be topped.
We've talked about mine, so mine was the brawl on stage, at my tournament. And that kept going on for about an hour and a half after the tournament. Oh, it was actually
still animosity about that one.
Huh?
There's still animosity about that one, isn't
there?
there?
There's still animosity about that one, yeah. So, go ahead, Richard.
Go ahead, Richard. Go ahead.
Yeah. I know it's the Richard Comedy Hour. No, I've really not had too many. I've had one in like the last 10 years that I've had my own tournament. I mean, this one, and it's not even really that bad, but I had one parent message me, and he was like, "Hey, Richard, your tournament was great, ran on time, but I don't think we can come back next year unless you guys put a baby changing station in the bathroom." And I was like, "What?" He's like, "Well, I couldn't change my toddler, and next year if we have more kids, if we come back, we really like to have a baby changing station in the bathrooms. Do you need one installed?" And I was like, "Let me work on that. Let me see what I can do."
There you go. Hey.
So,
how do you get kids? You figure stuff out.
Yeah. There you go.
What?
All right,
Richard's the Boy Scout. He's got that, man. He's got that all day long. No problem, man. I've got so many stories over the years of just like random people being upset. Because like at every tournament, you're gonna have a couple of people upset about something, right? Or you're gonna have some team coach or Joe Greenhall screaming at you or whatever. Whatever's going on. So there's a million of those just because it happens at every event. And like either I've been coordinating and helping run I hear so much, right? Whether it's right or wrong. right or wrong. Some stuff I can't share, like a lot of stuff is nuts, but like, it's always interesting. Like I'll generalize a common complaint. Here you go. Like I hear, like, it's kind of like, oh, well, that judge is never, he's not, they didn't call, they're not calling my points. They're a horrible judge. They didn't call any points for my kid or whatever. And you hear that, in some variation all the time, and I'm just like, like if these people that are a little bit seasoned or have been around, I know they're traveling. I'm just like, guys, not every turn, you're not going to win every event. Your kid's not going to smoke everybody at every event, or you're not going to get every point called. Again, we go back to everything we talked about with judging and officiating or whatever. But you do hear that. I hear it, like on the negative side, you hear those types of things, just like I guess you would at any baseball game, like, oh, he wasn't out, or, he didn't tag him, or, it was a foul or not a foul. So, I mean, I guess that's common and there's not much we can do about that. I mean, everybody's going to be competitive, but those are like every event, you're going to get that.
Right. All right. So we got to wrap this up, but I want to finish this up with maybe one quality that you think a promoter should have, and maybe one that, I don't know, maybe it's something that people think it takes to be a promoter, and it's really not as important as people think,
Yep.
Like, I know for me, a lot of people look at who's got the most students and let's make them a promoter. That's not always the best thing. No. Yeah, they'll get a lot of people and they'll be able to bring people to your tournament. But is their priority really in promoting an event for other people and not just their school? Right. So let's just say that, because I think we need to point those things out so we can find good promoters and, encourage them.
It is. It's like, it's not about just you have a huge school, you've got hundreds of students, you should be a tournament promoter. Not at all. That's like saying because you're a black belt, you should be the instructor. Right. Or because you're a black belt, you should be the head, because you're a 7th degree black belt, you should be the center referee. Jesus, probably not. Right. I mean, like, that's a whole other discussion. Right. So it's not really that. Richard, what do you think, as far as that goes? I think I cut on you.
I tell you what, I'll never be able to be the gentleman I'm getting ready to mention. And, I know he's resting in heaven, watching out for us in the sport karate world, but Ken Eubanks was the most personable man I've ever met in my life.
He was.
I tell this story all the time. The highest I ever got at Bluegrass Nationals was 4th place. And Ken, 20 years later, remembered what uniform I had on. And all I ever got was 4th place. The thing about a promoter is to be personable. You have to make the school owner that brought one student and the school owner that brought 30 students feel just as important to that tournament and that event. So being personable, that's the thing. Relating to people, that to me makes the best promoter. It's not the person with the largest school. It's not the person that was the best fighter that was in this generation. It's being personable and actually caring about the people that are coming to your tournament. I tease people, but I try and I mean, I try and give out 1,000 hugs at my tournament, man. I'm a hugger. So I'm hugging people all day long. It's just, I just want people to feel appreciated. So if you make people feel appreciated and generally feel that, it's personality. It really is. It's being a personal person. To me,
and the way to be able to show that personality is by being a good delegator. Because if you want to do all of it yourself, you can't do that if you're trying to do everything, and you look miserable the whole day. And that's not what they want to see, is someone who's miserable. Like, oh, this guy looks like an ass. Like, I don't want to. So he's so. You got to be able to delegate so that way you can do that job of being the face of your tournament, right?
No, it's exactly right. Richard knows a few years ago at Arkansas Open, I made the mistake. My other hand didn't show up, and I took on more than I needed to by myself. And I was the guy like, oh, God, don't approach JP today, which is probably most tournaments. Nothing so busy, but especially that day. But you're absolutely right. And having an open mind and caring about people, putting customer service first, being willing to understand what technology can do for you and how you have to hustle. And you got to get out. To Richard's point, you have to go. You got to be personal. You got to go to other people's events. You got to be willing to work. Being a promoter is not so easy. And I agree. Like Richard and I talked before about Ken Eubanks. Like he's a hero of both of ours. I think he was one of the best promoters ever. I watched his work ethic. Yep. I loved it. I loved the bluegrass, like with you guys when we were kids, going running around the golf house and stuff. And, but it was awesome, man. But watching promoters like him, and there's other promoters, not to, leave anybody out, but, him specifically was a big influence too. And I think that still carries to this day, our list of things to be a good promoter that we tell people, that everything that he said and the work ethic, you can't shortchange that. Those are the most important things. If you're in it for the money, don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it. It's not about the money. It should never be about the money. You've got to do good business, and you have to do things the right way to stay in business and to treat people right. But if it's about the money, or if it's about your power or your ego or being in charge, you need to go do something different.
Yep.
I never understood this. This is for the 5th, 6th, 7th degree black belt that needs to be the center referee. I never understood that. And what I mean by that is, when you're like that, I need to have stature. Don't you usually have people go do things for you? Wouldn't that be the perfect side judge, corner judge?
Right.
Hey, you guys handle all this. I'll just sit back here and watch. That's all you want that guy to do anyway. Right. I never understood, like, no. I'm going to – because when you're a center, man, you run around.
Yeah.
Like,
you're the manager of that ring.
Yep. You are.
You're everywhere.
Yep.
Who wants that?
And you're the face.
Right.
Too.
I will say on your point, I agree with you 100%. And sometimes the high rank holder, like sometimes they are great officials. Sometimes they're one of the best officials in the place.
Right.
But that's not common, right? With what's going on and staying up on stuff. So when I train officials and we have levels, it has zero to do with their rank. Nothing to do with what level of degree black belt they are, what style they are, how you can get up to being a center official at the Battle of Atlanta or at Ozark Mountain or Memphis Open or whatever, is completely based on your work and, what we're seeing and what level you've certified at, not what rank you are, and where it comes from, like a lot of organizations have that hierarchy, right? Like, the highest rank, we're going to put all the 5th, 6th, 7th degrees, they're center officials in the rings at our traditional event or whatever. And maybe there's reasons for that. I grew up in one of those, right? Like my first 8-9 years in martial arts, I grew up in a Taekwondo organization like that. So I get where it comes from, but it's not the right way.
Right.
At all.
Right. Well, guys, man, this was so much fun. We can do this several more times. And I'm sure we will again, because this has been fun. I think these are very important for us to discuss this and talk about this and get some comments from people and for us to really see, and hopefully we can all go back and comment as well after the fact on this.
Will do.
Yep. And guys, if you're just catching the end of this or you don't want to go back on, listen to us tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. The podcast version anywhere you find the podcast. Also, make sure you guys check out Virtual Fight Tour. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring us, and go check out their next one. And, we'll get into more and more talk about how that's going to work and how we can work together with tournaments and them soon too. So we would love to have you guys on to talk about something like that as well. So
awesome.
Thank you guys so much.
Hey, thank you guys.
I still think we got to call
awesome,
this
man.
episode like a tennis score and a stuck plunger. Because I tell you what,
I know
I'm never going to forget. I will never forget those stories.
I love it.
Ever.
I love it. All right, Alex.
This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week. Thank you, Richard. Thanks, Joey.